Good day, everyone.
Good day, everyone, and to you as well, partner.
So, as we start our webinar, we would like to introduce ourselves first. I am Maria Micaela and Correo from BTM21.
Primary Hotline Assistant from EPH1, and we will be
So,
your for today's webinar.
partner, before anything else, what is this webinar about?
This webinar will talk about the current situation of resorts in our country, especially the pandemic, which is still ongoing.
Oh, I get it. It's nice to have this opportunity for our audiences to have a grasp of the situation, especially we are in the process of achieving the new normal, right? So, without further ado, let's start this webinar, shall we, partner?
Now, we would like to introduce to all of our guests who will talk about the issues in resort during this pandemic.
So let us welcome Ms. Vivette Hanon and Ms. Remy Gonzalez. I am so thrilled to hear what they're about to share with us, partner.
And now, our dear speakers, you can now open your camera and mic. Attendees, let us welcome our guests for today.
So I guess they are already okay with their cameras. So let us start now with the first portion of our webinar. So living with the pandemic's effect for over a year has been hard and causing so much inconvenience, especially to our country's tourism and hospitality. So for today, we will be tackling the issues in resorts while in the middle of the pandemic.
Let's head to the question and answer portion. Ms. Remy, how do you think the pandemic lockdowns and such affected the resorts, as well as the country's tourism?
The world has implemented various of strategies to flatten the curve of the COVID-19, which includes lockdowns, stay-at-home orders, social distancing, and more that has affected the resort's money circulation and tourism rate. Some had even closed their businesses, and some had put into effect of safety guidelines that are indeed more tighter than the usual. Resorts have been expected to make substantial changes which cause a huge impact to their marketing. Although it might cause inconvenience to business owners, it was ordered to follow the change and protocols, and the resorts are now having a hard time to still operate their business despite the evident changes.
So yeah, I agree that this pandemic had caused a huge difference to the resort's operating system, right, Peter?
Yes, partner. For now, let me ask the second speaker, Ms. Vivette. As what Ms. Remy said, there are safety guidelines that have to be followed when operating a resort. What do you think the resort's employees should know to ensure the safety and sanitation of the whole facility to ensure the safety of the guests?
So, alright, for over a year, COVID-19 has been a continuous threat to businessmen and even to ordinary people and customers. To avoid the inevitable risk, here are some tips that must be followed by the employees. So, close contacts could put you in danger. So, touching your mouth, nose, and eyes after shaking hands with clients. Cleaning surfaces and handling money is something that everyone should avoid. And it is advisable to promote such as on use technological solutions to avoid face-to-face interactions such as online check-ins and reservations. If it's possible, stay at least 6 feet away from the customers. These tips doesn't make you look overreacting. Hence, it is one of the components of following basic safety guidelines, as this pandemic is something that we should be worried about.
Thank you so much for the tips and guidelines, Ms. Remy and Ms. Vivette. I am sure that the attendees had carefully noted down your tips that will definitely help them out.
So thank you again, our speakers, for sharing us your knowledge on resorts. For sure, our listeners have learned a lot from this very informative talk you've had.
Thank you for this wonderful talk, speakers.
Okay, now that we are done with the first portion of our webinar, let's head to the second part. Shall you do the honor of introducing our speakers, partner?
Yes, partner. And now let us welcome our speakers, Ms. Nicole Colorado, Ms. Jem Hernandez, Mr. James Ilaga. We will ask for some updates about the new protocols in resorts during this pandemic.
Let's now head to the question and answer portion. So the first question is for Mr. Ilagan. What would it be like to stay at the resort under the new normal protocol?
Okay. We will be expecting that resorts will be strict on the safety protocols following the new normal. There will be no walk-ins allowed. Resorts are allowing a certain percentage of guests depending on the government ordinance. You may experience the triage method upon entering the establishment. During the entire stay, you are as well as performing safety practices such as social distance, wearing of face masks and face shields, and consistent hand sanitizing and hand washing. And also expect that resort has timely sanitation in the whole resort practice. That's all.
Thank you for that, Mr. Ilagan. And now for Ms. Hernandez, what are the health and safety guidelines of resorts for the operation of accommodation establishments under the new normal?
Okay. As a resort, health and safety rules for operation of accommodation establishment under the new normal. First, upon checking in, guests have to fill out a health declaration form. Second, the customers are instructed to book and pay for their reservation through online. And third, all customers must have their body temperatures checked using a thermal scanner at the resort's entrance by a medical professional or trained resort worker. Always bring your medical kits such as face mask, 70 solution alcohol, hand sanitizer, and maintain social distancing. That's all.
So for the last question is intended for Miss Colorado. What are the things to consider before planning to stay at the resort during the new normal protocol?
Okay, so we all know that now more than ever it is important we follow our national health authorities' advice and be part of helping to prevent coronavirus spread and transmission. So there are things to consider before planning to stay at a resort during pandemic while following the new normal. So first, we must consider the risk and chances of getting the virus outside our houses. So we must the assess and carefully value the risk of having your families and your friends' health. And in addition, we also need to consider the additional cost of the resort's expenses for following the health protocols, which states that everyone needs to undergo swab test or rapid testing before the booking approval. Also, we must take account of that the accommodations are limited into certain amount of guests per room. That is one important thing for us to take into consideration.
Thank you for that, Ms. Colorado. Thank you, dear speakers, for answering and giving us some updates. We learned a lot. So now let's head to the third part of our webinar, partner.
Yes, let's not prolong this excitement anymore, partner. We shall now head to the most chill part of today's webinar. We have invited Ms. Elisa Fantillo, Ms. Angelica Destura, and Mr. Patrick Buguela, for they will share their own experiences. Now, you can open your cameras, speakers. So now let's head to the question and answer portion. You start, partner.
When was the last time you booked in a resort?
Okay, my family and I just went to private resort in Laguna last June 17, so that was already under MPCQ with high restriction, if that's what they say. Then I am with my family, including kids and my daughter, Donna.
Okay, so for the second question, how was the experience in booking? Is it hard to make bookings in a resort?
I experienced some difficulties due to the pandemic, and the new normal didn't allow us to go in any resorts. There are rules and regulations that are implemented, and the owner of the resort was not strict with the given rules, as long as the order is maintained.
Next question is, what are the guidelines of the resort during the pandemic?
One thing we complied their guidelines and precaution to ensure our safety and the cleanliness of the resort is what I like: complete amenities, lifeguard, and etc.
So I guess that concludes sharing of the experiences of our speakers.
Again, thank you so much, Ms. Pantilla, Ms. Destura, and Mr. Bunguela for taking time and letting our viewers learn from your personal experiences.
So, thank you for giving time for this webinar. It's good to hear and learn from the top of our speakers, right, partner?
Yes, partner, I believe that this is really what we need as aspiring workers in the field of tourism. Nothing beats the knowledge that came from personal stories and experiences. Once again, thank you to our guest speakers and attendees who attended this webinar. Have a nice day, everyone!